Ibis Weather. This is your host, Sarah. This is the update for Monday, June 15th, 2026. And we are back talking about same tropical disturbance or potential tropical disturbance that we've been tracking since last week that come from the remnants of Tropical Storm Christina that impacted the Eastern Pacific over there by Honduras and El Salvador, and has traversed the Gulf and now is hanging off or near the coast of Texas right now, and what the latest development chances are, as well as what we might be able to expect from our possible first tropical system. First, before we get started, I would like to say if you guys do like these videos, like tropical system updates, just weather stuff in general, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. I do post shorts pretty often on my YouTube as well as my Facebook. My Facebook is linked in my YouTube page, um, as well as, like I said, here on YouTube. And of course, I would love to have you guys here to help us continue to track as we go more into starting to get into the middle of hurricane season as we approach the middle of June now. And of course, the peak won't start until August, so make sure you do subscribe if you want updates as we find out what the season will look like the rest of the way. But let's go ahead and get back to the topic of potential tropical storm Arthur. Yes, that would be the name of this system if it does become a tropical storm. If it stays, or if it just becomes a tropical depression, it will not be named, but it is looking like a tropical storm is more likely. As you can see, according here to the National Hurricane Center, they do currently give it the odds of 40% of development in the next 48 hours. 50% for the next 7 days. If you remember over the weekend, and a little before, it had low chances going from 10%, 0 to 10%, up to 20%, and now it's at 40 and 50. So it is looking more likely. The potential is certainly there. The water is definitely warm enough, and it has a trough of dry, cold air that is going to hook onto, and that could help create a cyclonic genesis, is what is needed to make this become Tropical Storm Arthur, and we'll have to wait and see if that happens, but the odds are looking that way. Again, according to the National Hurricane Center, it would be a tropical storm for a very short period of time, so that is good news. It does not look like a hurricane would be expected, no matter where you are from southern and southeast Texas, all the way through Louisiana and Mississippi. You guys are at great risk of heavy rain. Heavy tropical rain that could cause life-threatening flash and urban flooding and river flooding. Of course, you guys will have some gusty winds as well as coastal flooding possible along portions of the northwestern Gulf Coast, and we may end up seeing watches or warnings being issued as early as tomorrow, which is June 16th on a Tuesday. So it's something to continue to monitor. Like I said, we'll continue to monitor it here. Let's go ahead and look at some of the current imagery we have here. So again, as you know, I love to show you guys kind of the winds that we see going on. You definitely see over there by where it is, which is currently in this general area. There is nothing, at least on the surface level, showing any rotation. Rotation would be required, obviously, if it was going to become a tropical storm. So we're not seeing that at the moment right now. Of course, they're saying if it does become that, it probably wouldn't become that until Tuesday and Wednesday. Um, so that's why it's lower chances for the next 48 hours versus the next 7 days. So we'll have to continue to monitor to see if it does end up forming a little bit earlier than anticipated. But right now, it's just a broad area of showers, as you can see here. I mean, all the way going back to eastern Mexico, all the way across all of Louisiana, most of Mississippi, pretty much all of Alabama, even into Georgia and Florida and South Carolina is getting some. And of course, everywhere from San Antonio and Austin up to the very southeastern portions of the DFW area are also getting some showers of storm activity here. So it's definitely a broad area. Definitely got a healthy inflow for moisture and all the stuff that's needed. Of course, even a little bit off shore, you're seeing some showers as well. And you are seeing, it is interesting, it does look like we're maybe possibly getting some slight rotation starting to dip kind of south into Florida. So that is something worth noting. If we're going to talk about rotation again real quick, I do want to mention over here by the Yucatan, we're seeing a little bit of rotation starting over there as well. So again, as I mentioned in previous videos, with us being in June, our greatest risk are storms that form closer to land and closer to where we are. Um, in the Caribbean and into America, and Central America as well. So that definitely is a possibility. So it's something worth noting. There's definitely something there trying to get some spin, and not really seeing any spin here right now on the surface level of Florida, but definitely could be something that to watch. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Atlantic, Great Atlantic. You can see, and I'm not really seeing anything. Does look like we have a tropical wave with a slight rotation possibly coming. Get ready to come off the coast of Africa. I mentioned at the end of last week as well. We'll have to kind of monitor and wait and see. Nothing super worrying at the moment. So our main focus is obviously going to be on what could be Tropical Storm Arthur, which is looking like a nice, healthy storm system at the moment. Just not quite where it needs to be in order to become Arthur. Let's go ahead and talk about forecasted course. Because this is not even a tropical depression, let alone tropical storm or hurricane, I will preface this part of the models runs would obviously be they're not going to be super great with what they're showing. When there is no close circulation, it's harder for these computer models to track and predict what will happen. So it is important to note that. And it does kind of show just the general trend of what will probably happen for the Southeast as a whole as we are entering quote unquote super El Nino at the moment. So if you see here, we're looking at Tuesday. This is a GFS, so this is the American model. At midnight, definitely you see just lots of rain. Again, northeastern Mexico, all the way across to eastern Texas, most of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Mississippi, Alabama, and even to Florida, and somewhat into southwestern Georgia. And if we go forward, you see still showing some storms. If we look by 6 a.m. Wednesday, it looks like that is kind of where we're starting to see the cyclonic genesis possibly happen. Definitely by 6 o'clock on Wednesday, you see it kind of approaching, making landfall over there by Louisiana and Texas. And by Thursday, it does. Then it dissipates, but you still see it actually bringing a lot of rain with it, and moisture into, again, from Louisiana into Georgia, um, including going into Friday morning. And was just kind of see the continued trend of just a lot of rain for the southeast. This typically is what happens when you do have an El Nino. And of course, that's something to continue to watch as we continue to go forward. Euro showing something very similarly. This is, let's go start at midnight Tuesday. So very similar. This does show a little bit more rain broken up over there into Texas, more heavy rain over there into most of Mexico. Let's go forward. Does show again having a nice healthy kind of band and shield of rain from Tuesday at noon, going all the way again from northeastern Mexico into the South Carolina. Going forward, this one does show kind of cyclonic genesis happening more on Wednesday here, not really moving it very much. And then again, it kind of takes it in the same area that the GFS does, where it makes landfall on Thursday. This one does seem to hold it together a little bit longer and a little bit more. And then, of course, it breaks apart. And then again, just a lot more rain again as a whole for the southeast coast, which is not unusual for an El Nino year. And then if we look at the famous spaghetti tracks, this is for again, as a saying with this computer model, I do want to correct to say, without a closed circulation, it is harder for these models, including these spaghetti tracks, to kind of get a better idea of where the storm could go, etc. So again, these are more just for fun and just because of people's curiosity. But it does kind of show you the general idea of what both models are showing as well for the current runs. So quite similar, which is pretty unusual if you've been following hurricanes for a while and followed me last year. Usually, the further away you are from the storm, the wider the spread is between the two. This one is surprisingly more close, but it might be because it's also closer to land and making landfall this week. But again, we'll have to wait and see if it does become Arthur. So this one does show again making landfall somewhere over there between Texas and Louisiana. This is the GFS. And this is the Euro, very similar. This one does show possibly going all the way up to kind of the mid-Atlantic area. Of course, it wouldn't hold itself together. It would just be mostly just rain and some wind, obviously, at that point. Uh, but very similar. to each other, and surprisingly, like I said, for this quote unquote far out from possible impacts. Now touch on a little bit on intensity. This is intensity guidance. This is put out by tropicaltidbits.com, which is owned by Levi Cowan. He is fantastic at what he does. This one shows kind of where a lot of the models are thinking of how strong it will be, and does show one taking it to all the way to a tropical storm. Um, and the other ship kind of taking it pretty close to that, and the others keeping it a little bit below. So again, that would make it a named storm. It would make it Tropical Storm Arthur. But again, it doesn't look like a hurricane because again, the conditions were so early in the season. It doesn't have the time to traverse the waters the way that something comes off the coast of Africa, like a Cape Verde style. So we have that, the water is warm, but not as warm as it could be to cause a major storm like that, so that's good. Of course, tropical storms are destructive and can cause a lot of issues, as I mentioned earlier. Talk about heavy rain, including flooding, of course, some wind. But I think most people would say they'd rather go through a tropical storm than through a actual hurricane. So that is right side of this case. We're not talking about something that is like a week and a half out, where it would have a lot of, June, I mean, July, August, really August or October temperatures to go through for sea surface to get a lot of strength from. So this is probably one of the better circumstances for sure, but still, um, a tropical storm can suck. I think everyone can agree on that. Of course, still looks like right now only one model is showing that, but again, if we do look back at the satellite image, it is an impressive system. Um, and we'll just kind of continue to monitor, see where it goes. Going forward, let's take another look at another satellite view. So this is kind of more zoomed out. Definitely shows more of the clouds. This one is showing not quite as widespread shower activity as the other does, but definitely see where you're getting some convection over there by extreme southern Texas and northeastern Mexico, and then of course a little bit into the deep south. Let's go ahead and talk about sea surface time and temperature anomaly. So obviously anything from the dark reds to the light yellows means warmer. White would be neutral, and any shade of blue would be cooler. And unfortunately, while we do see a little bit of pocket of cooler and normal temperatures right directly kind of south of southwestern Louisiana, that might not be enough to keep it from forming to our authorities. It's kind of surrounded. We definitely see a more warm pocket over there by New Orleans. Again, I don't think this is going to be a major storm. I don't think New Orleans needs to necessarily worry about um, a Katrina level or a Laura level system, which is good news. But definitely can see, and we definitely see over there from the Carolinas and Virginia, over there by Florida is definitely more warmer waters. It's a little bit cooler on this side, so again, it's probably better it's on this side. But as it travels and then kind of hooks up to that front, kind of coming out to the ocean, it could enter more of the warmer pockets. And then, as I've also been mentioning as well, I do want to show you guys currently any of the alerts and advisories that's currently going on there. Right now, we don't have anything severe, which is good news. We do see a little bit of a flood advisory for Missouri and Kansas. Of course, we're seeing red flag warnings for kind of the um, Central West, and then of course Intermountain West, which is typical for this time of year. Heat advisories for the Pacific, and then if we look at the areas from again most of Louisiana through all of coastal Texas, it does look like they do have coastal flood statements going on right now. Again, due to possible um, tropical storm Arthur. So summarize my update for today. To let you guys know, this system that we've been tracking since last week, which I've been calling the zombie remnants of Tropical Storm Christina, sorry, and the wave that emerged into, and it kind of having a third charm here. This does look like probably the most promising we've seen it. Um, Again, it has a 40 to 50% chance odds of becoming a tropical storm, while really only one model currently shows it becoming that. I will say satellite image and presentation is definitely impressive of it. It's definitely a wide system, lots of moisture to work with. Of course, you did see some of the water temperatures are definitely warm enough, possibly to create for tropical genesis, tropical cyclonic genesis to happen. Again, that probably wouldn't happen until tomorrow or Wednesday, maybe some of them showing Thursday even. So tomorrow we may see tropical storm watches or even warnings come out for this possible system. So it's looking like we will have our first named system in June, which has been kind of the usual for the past few years. Again, if you do want to continue to get the latest updates and kind of know what's going to go on and what might happen with Central Tropical Storm Arthur, and then of course for the rest of the hurricane season, I would love for you guys to follow me. Again, feel free to subscribe, like, and share. I will continue to post updates and we will continue to track this possible tropical storm that we may be seeing towards the middle to the end of this week and all the risk that it can bring with us in terms of flooding rain for portions of the deep south. And until then, I will talk to you guys later.